Day one of the NASCAR trial is off and running. We'll recap jury selection, which certainly sounded like a time, opening statements, and then Denny Hamlin took the stand where he talked about sponsorship, NASCAR trying to steal it, how his 2025 season went, and how much things cost he and 2311 Racing. We'll get into all of that. Our costs aren't covered to put on their show. That is what Denny Hamlin said when he took the stand on Monday in the NASCAR trial. And that is the theme that you're going to see throughout the next 2 weeks as this will continue to drag on, barring some sort of a settlement. But before we get into what Denny Hamlin had to say, and he had a lot to say, so much so that we're going to come back on Tuesday morning and continue doing it here. And that's not because Denny was long-winded. It's just because of time frame. And when he took the stand in the afternoon on Monday, didn't really leave a ton of time to have him do a full testimony there. So we'll see him again on Tuesday, which actually works out pretty well because he was not going to be in the courtroom until he was called up to the witness stand. Because he is now the first witness to appear, he will now be allowed to be in the courtroom the rest of the time. Everybody remembers the designated representative, the Michael Jordan situation we talked about a little bit ago. Well, now Denny Hamlin will get to join Michael Jordan in the courtroom as he has given his testimony. But before we even got to the testimony on Monday, we had to go through the jury selection. Obviously, they're going to need 6 jurors with 3 alternatives, and they got there. They got to that point finally. Although they had to call back one of the jurors they had sent home because one of the other jurors had childcare constraints, time constraints, whatever went into that. So that caused a bit of delay on Monday morning as well. But the jury selection process certainly seemed like a bit of a time here. One of the candidates that was asked if they could serve was asked if they had any sort of feeling toward Michael Jordan, which would make it unfair or impartial to be on this jury. And they said yes, that they do, that they would not be able to be impartial. So the judge went ahead and dismissed them. This person was a former NASCAR fan who said that NASCAR is killing NASCAR. And then on his way out of the courtroom, decided to point at Michael Jordan, give him a bit of a fist pump there, which got Michael Jordan to laugh, got the gallery to laugh, and also got a note from Judge Kenneth Bell, who said that he appreciated the sincerity and honesty of this candidate. So they were tossed out. Another juror, a potential juror, got tossed out for working for the Hendrick Automotive Group. Obviously, if Rick Hendrick is called to testify, that really muddies the waters in terms of what this person is going to say and do there. So they were kicked to the curb. Another potential juror, like another candidate, said that they couldn't hear the judge, to which Judge Kenneth Bell said they should go get hearing aids and went ahead and promptly bumped them out as well. Just roasting people out here on the stand. And then we had another juror who, in the hobby section of the questionnaire, wrote heavy drinking and then wanted it to be noted in court that that would not impair his judgment in the case. Listen, I don't care how much you like drinking. Maybe don't put that on the questionnaire when you're potentially going to be a juror. So regardless, we got through all of that and they were able to select 6 jurors plus the 3 alternatives as well. And then the trial got started. Judge Kenneth Bell was not happy at the start of this trial with the opening statements that were delivered to him. He was not happy with both sides basically taking a lot of shots at one another. He was not happy with the way that it was reading, and he barred them from showing any sort of evidence during their opening statements. They weren't allowed to use any visuals, and he said if they started to act correctly, that maybe in the future he would allow them to do that. Basically like being scolded by your parents there. So both sides made their arguments there at the start. Jeffrey Kessler basically argued everything that we've already seen them argue, basically talking about the anti-competitive practices of NASCAR, of Jim France, of everybody involved in the situation there. They said the only reason 2311 Racing is profitable is because Michael Jordan attracts a lot of sponsorship, which we'll get into to the tune of $45 million by the sounds of it, based off of what Denny Hamlin said during his testimony. And they also stressed that like the emails and the texts and everything that we saw there basically kind of back up what 2311 is saying here about the anti-competitive strategy and everything else that goes into the NASCAR side of things. So a lot of the same things that you've heard about. We aren't really shocked by that. Then NASCAR attorney John Stevenson gave their opening statement, which was a bit of a surprise because John Stevenson isn't the lawyer that has been representing NASCAR, at least through the hearings and everything like that. That's Christopher Yates. NASCAR side, Christopher Yates and team, decided to go with John Stevenson to deliver it. And Jeff Gluck on his Teardown podcast with the other guy from The Athletic mentioned that there was some thought process behind this, that maybe it's because he has a Southern accent and he can potentially appeal to the court and to the jurors there because he sounds like them, which is certainly a strategy as well. And he basically went up there and argued that if the system is so anti-competitive, why did 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports both buy charters multiple times under the old charter agreement as well? And then if they're anti-competitive, why are they going up and raising the amount of money that they're giving to teams through the charter deal and everything that goes into that? So yeah, there's a lot of the same arguments to be made there, including one which apparently they're going to show to the court, which is 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports wanting to negotiate through litigation. And that has been a talking point since the beginning of all of this. And something NASCAR has continually said that they're upset about the negotiations, them being the teams. So they're going to try to litigate to the terms that they want, which isn't what we're here to do. So we'll see how all of that plays out. But then Denny Hamlin took the stand as the first witness. And Denny Hamlin had a lot of things to say, if we're being honest, because, well, he's Denny Hamlin. And if you've listened to Actions Detrimental, Denny likes to talk. And Denny has a pretty good outlook on the sport. Michael Jordan's CFO may have called him a terrible businessman, but Denny still has a pretty good idea on what's happening in the sport. So it's interesting to hear him talk about it. They did ask him a number of different questions, including one, did you graduate high school? And he said, they gave me a diploma, to which apparently Michael Jordan laughed pretty hard at that in the courtroom. I never would have questioned Denny Hamlin's education. I just always assumed he got a diploma, but hey, it's on the record now that he does in fact have a high school diploma. He was then asked, how did his 2025 season go? Because remember, these jurors aren't NASCAR fans. They really have no idea what's happening in the world of NASCAR. They have no idea about the teams, the names, all the other random things that you and I both know about because we follow this incessantly. They just don't know anything. So I asked Denny Hamlin how his 2025 season went. And he said, can I plead the fifth? And they said, well, you're not being prosecuted today. And then he explained that he won the most amount of races in the 2025 season, that he was leading the championship race with 3 laps to go. A caution came out and he ended up losing the championship there. So yeah, really sticking it to him, making him relive that aspect of everything. Then Denny talked money, which I thought this part was pretty interesting. He said that 2311 Racing has invested $45 million in charters. Their shop, Airspeed, which they refer to it as Airspeed, not a shop, but for the sake of making sure everybody knows what the hell I'm talking about here, it's a shop called Airspeed. That cost them $35 million, which is interesting because during the last round of text messages that came out and emails and everything like that, there was some talk amongst RTA members about having a reporter from the New York Times come down and tour one of the shops, and they were going to go to Airspeed. And everybody was like, hey, maybe we don't send them to the nicest shop in the sport, because they're trying to get more money, obviously, out of NASCAR. Maybe we send them to a Cog Racing or something like that, which, I mean, damn, that Cog's probably like, I spent a lot of money in this sport, and you guys want to send them over here because we look like little sisters of the poor compared to Airspeed, but that cost $35 million. That wasn't publicly known before today. They also have 140 employees, and they said that it costs $20 million per car per season to get it to the track. That's not counting overhead expenses or driver salaries. So that's pretty substantial because they say they get about $12.5 million a year from NASCAR. They got to come up with the other $7.5 million, and they got to cover the driver cost as well after that, plus, whatever the overhead expenses are. So it gets expensive. We learned what they pay to Joe Gibbs Racing each year. They pay $8 million on an annual basis to Joe Gibbs Racing for bodies and for information. Obviously, all the technical information that makes them just as fast as the JGR cars, that is what they're paying. So $8 million a year for the 3-car team, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. Honestly, expected it to maybe be a little bit higher there, but yeah. Denny also talked about sponsorship, and I thought this part was very interesting, and it's not anything that's foreign to you if you follow the sport pretty closely here. But he said that when they're trying to attract sponsors, they're also competing against NASCAR for those sponsors. And he said that NASCAR is constantly calling their sponsors, trying to get them to leave the team and then be a sponsor of NASCAR. He said that the reason they were able to buy the Germain Racing charter is because NASCAR went out and poached Geico away from Germain, made him one of the premier partners in NASCAR, and that basically put Germain out of the sport, out of business, because they lost their full season sponsor there. Didn't really make any financial sense anymore. So Denny says that NASCAR, not only is he competing with the other teams, but he's also competing with the governing body for it as well. And he mentioned it a few times. So he really wanted to drive that point home to the jurors that were there as well. And then, like I mentioned before, the team generates $45 million in sponsorship a year, and they credit that to Michael Jordan, which I would say Yeah, Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace. Those are probably your three big draws there to get sponsorship. Obviously, Riley Herbst is a different sort of situation. His is a B2B deal essentially. So with Monster being there as well. But yeah, Denny was pretty adamant that, right now, he said, quote, our costs aren't covered to put on their show. So basically, once again, insinuating and saying that they want their costs covered to put on the show for NASCAR here. So they want $20 million per car. Which is an argument to be made, right? It goes against how NASCAR has fundamentally been set up to this point. But, I guess it comes down to eventually what a jury is going to decide in this case here. So that was just day number one with Denny Hamlin. Obviously, day number two is going to be a lot more intense, a lot more information coming out of it, a lot more crowded. So hopefully I'll speed these up on Tuesday. I'm not going to try to drag them out for a long time. I will say, if you want good resources from this, there are a number of NASCAR journalists that are at the courthouse every single day, or will be every single day throughout this entire trial. Give Jeff Gluck a follow. Give Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic a follow. Matt Weaver from Motorsport is doing a fantastic job as well. Michael Massey, I believe that's what his name is. My apologies if I just messed that up. Really good job. John Newby, I believe, is there as well. A lot of really good reporters that are there on the ground covering this. Obviously, I work a professional job. Doesn't really work out for my schedule to be down there. Although I, of course, am getting a little FOMO for missing it. But reading the updates has certainly been great. And those guys have all done a really good job recapping everything through day number one here. So let me know in the comments what you think about the jury selection, what Denny Hamlin had to say, and where you think this entire thing is going. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.